Domains and kingdoms. Domains. In a phylogenetic tree of all life on Earth, the first branches represent the three domains of the modern classification system. The three domains are Bacteria, Archaea, and Eukarya. LUCA gave rise to all three domains. Genetic analysis has enabled the creation of many hypotheses regarding the identity of LUCA. Most scientists agree that LUCA was a community of organisms that lived at high temperature and pressure near hydrothermal vents. They metabolized methane and hydrogen gas in the absence of oxygen, like some modern Archaeans. The current cladogram shows LUCA as a root, shown in black, that gave rise to two branches of life, Bacteria and Archaea Eukarya. Domain Bacteria. All species in domain Bacteria also belong to the kingdom Eubacteria. They are prokaryotes, and are only species with cell walls made up of peptidoglycan. This domain includes bacteria that are familiar to us and beneficial, such as the genus Lactobacillus, which we use to make yogurt, and which live on and in our bodies. Some species of bacteria cause disease, such as certain strains of E. coli and chlamydia. In this picture, we see a technique that's used to grow the bacteria. We wipe some bacteria on part of the petri dish here that has growth medium. Then from what we originally wiped, we do another streak, so there's less growing on that second streak. Then a third one, from the second streak we rub it, and then the last one is streaked from the third streak to make its own streak, and there's a less density of bacteria in that streak, and so we have separate colonies growing distinctly on the petri dish on that fourth quadrant of it. Domain Bacteria. Hundreds of bacterial phyla have been identified, and it is believed that hundreds have yet to be discovered. It's worth noting that not all phyla bacteria can grow artificially in growth media. Species in the domain Bacteria are classified into phyla based on the sequence of a conserved gene, 16S RNA, their metabolisms, and the structure of their cell walls. Microbial ecologists cannot observe their subjects directly, so they use molecular sequencing to classify them. Domain Bacteria. This phylogenetic tree was generated by computational biologists who sequence bacterial genomes and use algorithms to compare them. Bacteria are diverse. At least 5 bacterial phyla carry out photosynthesis. At least 3 bacterial phyla benefit human health by living in our guts and interacting with our immune systems and nervous systems. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria are the only organisms on Earth that could break down the triple covalent bond of diatomic nitrogen, making nitrogen accessible to plants. Thus, they play a crucial role in the cycling of matter. Domain Archaea. Domain Archaea also contains only prokaryotes. They differ from bacteria in their rRNA gene sequences, their plasma membrane composition, and their cell wall composition. Their gene expression and DNA replication processes are similar to that of eukaryotes. For these reasons, our current phylogenetic trees show eukaryotes evolving from Archaea. Domain Archaea. Domain Archaea includes organisms that can live in places considered too volatile for other organisms, such as very hot or salty environments. They also live in freshwater, soil, and in people. Thermophiles live in hot water, and halophiles live in salty water. Domain Eukarya. Domain Eukarya is made up of eukaryotes. They can be unicellular or multicellular. The cells all have a membrane-bound nucleus and various organelles. This domain is broken into 4 kingdoms: Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. Major differences between domains. Both bacteria and archaea are always unicellular. Most species of Eukarya are multicellular, like plants and animals, but there are some unicellular species, like baker's yeast is a unicellular fungus. Bacteria and Eukarya have phospholipids in their membranes, but Archaea do not. Bacteria have peptidoglycan in their cell walls. Archaea do not have this. That's a major difference between bacteria and Archaea. And there are some species of Eukarya that have cell walls, plants and fungus mainly. And bacteria and Archaea do not have a nuclear envelope because they do not have a nucleus. Eukaryotes do, and eukaryotes also have membrane-bound organelles, which bacteria and Archaea do not. Kingdom Protista. This section of the presentation reviews the kingdoms of domain Eukarya. Kingdom Protista is so diverse that some taxonomists believe it could be subdivided into many kingdoms. Any organism that is difficult to classify will be assigned to Kingdom Protista. This artistic rendition of the kingdoms, to the right, indicates the diversity of Protista. Notice Protista in the center here is related to all the different kingdoms. Animalia branches off of it, as well as fungi and Plantae, bacteria, and Archaea. Kingdom Protista. Like all eukaryotes, protists have a true nucleus and internal membranes. Protists may resemble fungi, animals, plants, or have some combination of traits from the other 5 kingdoms. They may be unicellular, colonial, or multicellular. They may be autotrophic or heterotrophic. The most elaborate cells on Earth are unicellular protists. Diversity in Kingdom Protista. The amoeba is an example of a protozoan, an animal-like protist. It is made up of a single, motile, elaborate cell that hunts and ingests food. The slime mold is an example of a mold, a fungus-like protist. Their colonies may seem to crawl as they grow and spread. Fungus plus animal. This diatom is an example of algae, plant-like protists. Diatoms produce 20 to 50% of the Earth's oxygen. Giant kelp, a type of seaweed, is also algae. This euglena. Kingdom Fungi. Fungi are eukaryotic, and nearly all fungi are multicellular. They have cell walls that contain chitin, while plant cell walls are made with cellulose. They reproduce sexually. Fungi are heterotrophs, as they absorb their food and carry out cellular respiration, just like us. They cannot make their own food like plants, as they lack chloroplasts. Psilocybe basarescens is a mushroom with hallucinogenic properties. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, or baker's yeast, is a useful unicellular fungus for baking and making wine. Kingdom Fungi. The 100,000 species in this kingdom are assigned to phyla based on how they reproduce and the shape of their fruiting bodies. While fungi have diverse life cycles, they all produce haploid spores that can undergo mitosis and form a haploid body. The basic fungus structures include the hyphae, which are thread-like structures that make up the fungal body. The mycelium are bundles of hyphae that spread throughout the food sources. And fruiting bodies are reproductive structures that produce haploid spores. Kingdom Plantae. Plants are multicellular photosynthetic eukaryotes. Members of the Plantae kingdom are further grouped based on how they carry water, vascular and non-vascular. There are 3 non-vascular phyla and 9 vascular phyla. Plants are very diverse in their structure. Kingdom Animalia. Animals are eukaryotic, multicellular heterotrophs. There are 36 recognized animal phyla, of which 9 contain the vast majority of described existing species. Animals are grouped into phyla based on the presence or absence of certain structures. Chimpanzees are one of humans' closest relatives. They are grouped into the same phyla as we are because they have similar body plans.